This is what happens when people make claims that they cannot substantiate and end up looking silly.
Does white privilege exist?
Absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely.
And where's the proof of that?
All around. I tell people often now, in hindsight, one of the things that I wish I would have been more cognizant of was the white privilege at UCLA that was sitting, right next to me. For Black people, I believe white privilege is something to leverage.
What is it though? I don't see it anywhere. What is it? What is it?
How don't you
For
not
people
see
like
white
me who
privilege?
don't see it.
How do you not see white privilege?
Because it doesn't exist.
So Jesse is saying that he doesn't see white privilege. I think this is a very good opportunity for this lady to prove her point, to make her case, to show Jesse what is so obvious that he's failing to see. So how is she going to handle this? Well,
That's
Yes,
what
it does.
So what is it exactly?
I believe white privilege is
you believe? Is it what you believe to be in existence, or what is? If white privilege exists, it exists irrespective of what you believe. So what is white privilege?
just the ability just to be free and white and not have the same type of social, economic, and social ills as Black people have to deal with. I mean,
so these are things that Black people deal with. They're not free, they're not white, they don't have socioeconomic power. Is that what white privilege is about? To be free, to be white, and not have to deal with certain socioeconomic challenges? Isn't that a human thing? Isn't that what all people face? Don't all people face socioeconomic challenges? Is that exclusive to Black people?
there's no white racial profiling. White people don't get pulled over by the cops just because they're white. They have the ability to.
Okay, so let's say I concede the point that white people don't get pulled over by the cops just because they're white. Maybe we could make a case for that.
Show emotion and love to their sons without being emasculated. There's all kinds of examples
That's
of
amazing.
white privilege.
So when Black people show emotions and love to their kids, they are being emasculated by society, by who? How does that even happen? Where does that even happen?
You believe that?
Absolutely. Why don't you Black? How come you don't believe white privilege exists? What you see?
Well, because I am Black. And
That's because she believes or thinks that every Black person should think alike, every Black person should have the same experiences, every Black person should see things in the same way. And she's sort of shocked that Jessie is not seeing things from the way she's seeing it, because it should be a foregone conclusion to her that every Black person believes that white privilege exists.
color, but I don't have that dark mentality that most Black people have.
Clearly.
I see, she said clearly, I see that white people have the same struggles and things that we have, in that
Exactly.
What type of
they have
struggles
to
do they
make their
have?
marriages work. They have to make their children, help their kids grow up in the right way so that they can earn a living and be independent.
But they also have the majority of
They
their
make
fathers
kids-
at home.
Right,
We don't
and the
have-
reason for that, it's starting to change somewhat now, but the reason for that is because they are taking responsibility for that, whereas Black men and women are not taking responsibility for that, as they did prior to the Civil Rights Movement.
So white families have majority of their fathers at home. How is that a privilege that is not open to Black people as well? How is that a privilege that is not open to anybody or any people? White, black, red, yellow, green, whatever the race they are. How is that a privilege? It behoves on the man and the wife to make their marriage work. It's not a function of society. Society has nothing to do with the union between a man and a woman and how they navigate whatever challenges they are going to find themselves in. Society has nothing to do with people getting pregnant out of wedlock. Society has nothing to do with people breaking up their marriages. Society has nothing to do with people not raising their kids properly. So I don't see how this is a white privilege. I think it's something that's open to anybody, any race, any tribe, any group that wants to take advantage of the benefits. Of course, there are benefits of having fathers in the home. There are benefits of having two parents in a loving environment, and that's the best environment for any child to grow and to flourish. So it's open to everyone. You just have to reach out and take advantage of it.
Black people are blaming it on their lack of self-control and self-containment. They're blaming it on white people, while white people are working hard to keep it going.
I do
for
believe
themselves.
that there is a need for Black people to be held more accountable.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that doesn't excuse racism, that doesn't excuse institutional.
Of course not. It doesn't excuse racism or any institutional discrimination. But what are these institutional biases and discrimination in the first place? Where are they? If they're there, I'm going to be on your side on calling them out. but you just have to be able to prove your point and show that they actually exist and not just make them out of thin air.
Racism, that doesn't excuse.
But there's no
that,
such thing as that.
Yes,
it's an
it
illusion
is.
made
No,
up
it's
by
not.
black people
No,
and their
it's
leaders.
not. No, it's not. It exists.
Well,
Sorry.
where's the proof of it, though?
What do you mean, where's the proof of it?
There are many kids who are getting into, black kids who are allowed to get into these universities around the country, right, based on affirmative action, and because of affirmative action based on their color. That's discrimination based on color, and that's wrong. And these kids are getting in, but they're not earning their way. So when they fail, they feel less than before they were allowed to get in based on color.
I really don't understand how affirmative action works in the US. Is it that people are just admitted based on certain arbitrary criteria like the color of the skin? Oh, we have 5 black slots to fill, so we just pick any 5 black students. Aren't there a cutoff that these black students have to meet in the first place? Isn't there a standard that these black students have to meet for them to be considered for that affirmative action spot? Because if that's not the case, then it's going to be problematic, because you're just going to be carrying people who are not fit for that position, and you're going to be disenfranchising other black people who should be more eligible to have that position. I don't know which one it is, but I think that even if affirmative action should be in place, then anybody who from any group that is going to be choosing for that affirmative action spot, they have to meet a minimum capability criteria for them to be considered for that spot in the first place, and not just any random person from that group.
I'm a proud product of affirmative action. When I went to UCLA, it was because I was an affirmative action student.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And I think I turned out fantastic. So a lot of my peers who were having challenges getting into some of these predominantly white institutions, the affirmative action was great. My father went to Harvard. You know, he was one of very few blacks.
Was he affirmative action person?
I don't know if he was. That was back in the late 60s.
Well, then he wasn't.
So even back in the 60s, her father, who was black, was able to get into Harvard without affirmative action. Now, I'm not saying that affirmative action is not going to be good for people, it's not going to help them, but even before it existed, it didn't stop her father from pursuing his dream. He didn't stop her father from going to one of the best, if not the best, higher institutions in the world.
His way.
So, that being said, I still believe that affirmative action helped me get into UCLA, and it gave me access.
You would
and
not
exposure.
have gotten in there on your own because you were not smart enough?
I don't know if I wasn't smart enough, but based on the curve and what I was competing with you know, other individuals who had different educational opportunities and teachers. I mean, I'm coming from, you know, the LA Unified School District. I mean, so at the time, I think LAUSD was still pretty good. But I went to all.
So the school you went to was pretty good at that time, yet you were not able to compete with other students. What's going on here? Were you not taught well? Were you not smart enough, like Jesse had said? So what exactly puts you at a disadvantage that other students that you're competing against had this massive advantage that you needed affirmative action to be able to bridge that gap?
All white schools, from high school up
So you
through
got
college.
a good education. Why couldn't you get into the school?
Oh, so you went to an all-white school. So if at all there's white privilege, then somehow you should have benefited from the white privilege of being in an all-white school. Something's not adding up here.
Based on your own talent.
I don't know. Maybe because I didn't have some of the opportunity.
But you
first of
have-
all,
What opportunities is she talking about? What opportunities didn't she have? She has a father who is Harvard educated. She went to an all-white school. What opportunities is she talking about?
no. Well, first of all,
you had the
the
same
SAT,
opportunity those white kids were having.
Not necessarily. I had different teachers. I had
Wow, in the same school, you have different teachers for white people and black people in the same school? That seems weird.
different
So you
resources.
went to a white integrated school.
I'm talking about
mostly
going
white.
into these other into UCLA. I still had to be able to deal with some of the issues and going to predominantly white school,
Issues like,
Like
but
what?
I still had to be able to compete.
Like what?
What do you mean, like what?
Some of the issues going to a
I
predominantly
went I would graduate from University High School, and at the time they didn't have an African American student union.
oh, so they didn't have an African American student union in your school, and that was one of the reasons why you couldn't compete enough. That was a disadvantage for you? I don't understand.
We
An African American student union.
at the school
Well, that's a good thing.
they didn't have one.
That's a good thing.
Why?
Why do you need something like that?
Would they have Asian student unions?
And having Asian Student Union is going to help the Asian kids how?
They have Jewish student unions. They have all kind of
Did
different.
they have
student
white
unions.
student union?
They need student union. They own the whole school. So
But the kids didn't own the school. The kids didn't.
But I'm saying there's nothing. I don't think there's nothing wrong
It's
with having
amazing that
a
you think this way.
segregated, population of students who just want to study together, or work together, or to be able to.
Would you
deal
be
with
in support?
So is this woman arguing for segregation? I don't understand what she's arguing for. Does she want people to be segregated based on race, where they have to just okay now? So you want to form a study group? Do you have to look for someone who looks like you for you to form a study group, for it to be effective, for it to make any sort of sense? You have classmates. They may be white, they may be brown, they may be yellow, they may be of any color. They are people that you just naturally jive with. They are people you have similar interests with, and you could form a group with them and have your study sessions. I guess what she's saying is that just because she went to an all-white school, she felt sort of out of place. She felt left out. She couldn't find people that she could relate with. I don't know how much of a problem that is.
But of a white student union,
Yeah, of course.
it would be okay with you?
Yeah, why
Okay.
not?
But most blacks don't feel that way.
I think all cultures should be able to segregate and to be able to work within their cultures and network within their own cultures. Absolutely.
Does racism exist?
I believe racism does exist.
And where's the
absolutely.
proof of that?
You just see it all over in the country.
That's not a very, very smart answer. Yeah, racism exists, but you should be able to come up with a better answer than saying you just see it all over the country.
With proof of it. In
What-
terms of just
what do
the
I see?
disproportionate in the economics with black people.
But that has nothing to do with racism.
It does. Racism is about power. It's about who's in control. And black people can't be racist because we're not in control. We're not in
God damn, this definition again.
control of the educational system, some of the social.
So I don't understand. So because white people are in control of the institutions, does it mean that they apportion more marks to white students? Is that a thing? Is it that they pay more attention to white students? Is it that how does that even work? For the fact that a group of people own a certain institution, if there's anything like owning a certain institution, doesn't mean that that institution is just overwhelmingly biased in their favor, that to the detriment of other groups.
Organizations and things that run this country, we're not in control. Racism is about power.
But you
Who-
would
what
be in
race is
control of your
control?
own life if you had good parents, if they taught you how to be independent, if they taught you how to.
So the time that Barack Obama was president of the US, did black people have control of America? Did black people own America? Were black people calling the shots? I really don't understand how this power thing works, because people have different levels of authority in different spheres. In a black man's house, he's the king in his house. He has more authority than any other person in that house, even a white man. So I don't get this idea of black people don't have power, so they can't be racist. Black people have certain powers in certain areas, white people have certain power in certain areas. We can argue, even if we want to go with the definition of racism equals power and discrimination, that there are some instances where the black person has more power than the white person, and the black person can be racist on that regard, even using that definition.
Build, how to take care of. I've noticed that the reason I left where I lived over there in the Crenshaw district is that once the white people left, because once I moved there, when I first moved there, it was mostly whites. But once they left, as they did in Gary, Indiana, and other places, the blacks turned it into a ghetto. A beautiful area went to hell in a handbasket, so I got out. But if blacks had more character and they were taking care of themselves and being responsible and buying land and teaching their
But that has
children,
to be taught.
then
That
right.
has-
So these behaviors has to be taught. I don't understand. You have to be taught to be an upstanding citizen, to buy land. You have to be taught to look out for your community and not turn where you live into a trash. You have to be taught all those things. Black people, babies, that if they are not taught these things, that it doesn't occur to them to be a certain way. This is weird. In fact, this is racist, I would say.
So that has nothing to
be-
do with racism.
But that has to, of course, that has to be taught.
So it's not racist. It's not white people's fault that you're not teaching your children to do that.
No, but it's not. If the
that true?
parents don't know,
They
The
don't.
parents don't know. How the hell did they become parents not knowing these basic things?
parents,
No,
if, so-
but that's
if
not
the
white
parents
people's
don't
fault,
know, but if they go into some of these institutions, these predominantly white institutions, they are targeted. They don't have the same opportunities because of their.
She keeps saying they don't have the same opportunities, yet she hasn't given an example of what opportunities they don't have. She hasn't laid out any substantial evidence to buttress her points, to support her claim that these black people do not have the same opportunities in these institutions.
Color. It's true. I mean,
At this point, I'm kind of disappointed in the position because does white privilege exist? I have to say, yeah, but she hasn't in any way given any evidence to show that it does exist, which makes me question whether she knows what she's talking about in the first place, or whether it even exists to the extent to which she says it exists.
Why go in there then? Why not go to all black school if you
some
feel
people
that?
do choose to do that.
I'm sorry?
Some people do choose. That's
Well,
why
you see a lot of these black kids going to these white universities, and then they force their way in by saying, I need affirmative action. Once they get in, now they crying racism. Why do you want to force your way in with the people you think are your enemies, and you're still complaining once you get there?
I don't think people are forcing their way.
Does affirmative action even exist? Is forced based on color.
Does affirmative action even exist? Are people getting in based on affirmative action?
Yes.
Today,
otherwise they wouldn't be there.
The way Trump has it down, he's just leveled the playing field. So it is going to have to be more about being able to be competitive.
Hallelujah.
Yep. So people should be able to compete based on their capacity, based on their skills. For me, I think that a lot of these disparity or a lot of these problems of opportunities can be tackled at the root level. People need to have a good educational foundation so that they can compete and not need a crutch when they need to get into higher institutions. If their foundation is very good, if the K-12 educational system is solid for people across all groups, across all races, across all ethnicities, I think that would be a good thing, and that would solve the problem of having to need affirmative action at a particular point going into higher institutions. So, well, for me, this woman was not able to prove a point. She was just claiming oppression, and she really could not prove a point. So that's the video. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.